when he speaks, listen to him. Whatever he tells you to do, do it. And wherever he tells you to stay away from, stay away from. Why? He will get you across the river on his shoulders. Why? He's a guide.
Yes, sir.
He's a guide. In him, God and the apostle has deposited guidance for a people that are lost. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad is the guide. Master Farad Muhammad is the Mahdi. But he, by the love of Elijah Muhammad for him, he made Elijah into himself. So that when you see one, you see both. And whether you want to believe it or not, because I was willing to obey him, he took that obedience and is making me into himself, that I might sit in his seat or stand in his place in his absence. I say that, beloved, not to put any kind of accolade or nothing on myself. But if you study the way you have been guided by Brother Farrakhan in these last 15 years, you came from nothing to where you are in the midst of your enemies with no bloodshed. And the only time that we got in trouble in this 15 years, if you examine it, you went contrary to what I asked you to do. Now I'm going to ask you to do something tonight. And if you are reasonable, you will obey. And even if it's beyond your ability to reason, your faith will cause you to obey. The Nation of Islam, even though some of us are rebellious, the Nation of Islam is being exalted by Allah, so that today our people recognize that the solution to their problems is in Islam, as taught by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad.
Yes, sir.
The government of the United States realizes that there's power in the nation beyond our power, but it's the power of the Mahdi, God in person. His power is among this little group of people. In wide circles now, they're talking about what happened in Atlanta. They're talking about how you and we outdrew the World Series. That's something for them to talk about. the black leaders are saying among themselves, the people are listening to Farrakhan. Of course. The black clergy in Atlanta yesterday delivered a blow to the Jews. The Jews wanted to have a meeting with the black clergy. They waited till after we were gone. They didn't want to meet while we were there. So they called the black clergy. And you know, when Jews call the black clergy is always answered. But they called this time for a meeting. And the black clergy said, the only way we'll meet with you is if members of the Nation of Islam can be present. And you know what? The Jews said, we're not going to meet with the nation. And the clergy said, then you're not going to meet with us. Yes, sir. Now the black preachers getting strength. And I'm going to tell you, when the preacher stands up, it's over. Black folk are free overnight when the preacher stand up. Because traditionally the preacher has been the weak link in the chain, but if that link is getting strong, we're about to go free, brothers. We're about to go free, sisters. And the roughest part when you're about to go free is there's got to be some shedding of blood. There's got to be some shedding of blood. I don't know whether you heard it on the news. 1 year ago, we established the Ministry of Health, and we placed Brother Minister Dr. Abdul Alim Muhammad at the head of the Ministry of Health, gave him a leave of absence from his ministry to fight against the scourge of AIDS. Whether you know it or not, since in that 1 year, that brother has been around the globe. And the patients that he in Washington, and Dr. Barbara Justice, who is a Muslim now, in New York, have between them around 900. And the ratio of our getting them out of AIDS is about a 90% from the research of a black Kenyan doctor, Dr. David Koresh. And you must remember, my brothers, that it was black Africa that gave medicine to the world. So isn't it natural that a cure for AIDS should come out from our black brother in Africa? Yes. And white folks didn't even want to recognize it. And guess what? The work of Minister Alim and Dr. Justice came to a head the other night. They met in Washington, D.C. under the auspices of the National Medical Association, which is the black doctors, who heard a report from Brother Alim and Dr. Justice, and it overwhelmed them. And they impressed upon the National Institute of Health, which is the governing body and policy maker of the United States government. And so under the Medical Association, our people met with the National Institute of Health a few days ago. And they were so overwhelmingly impressed with the weight of evidence that the government held a press conference and said that they are going to fund clinical trials for immuviron and low-dose alpha interferon on the road to Federal Drug Administration approval, which means ultimately the Nation of Islam will be able to set up our own laboratory and produce it in America for all of our people who are suffering from AIDS. Allahu Akbar! Allahu Akbar! Allahu Akbar! Allahu Akbar! The nation is moving. But there's danger. There's danger. The movie Malcolm X will be coming out, Allah willing, on November the 18th. They moved it up from November the 20th to November the 18th. Now, all who wish to see the movie, of course, should go see it. Spike Lee is a wonderful brother who sees Malcolm X from the perspective of Malcolm X, which means he's a disbeliever in the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, so his movie couldn't reflect our views.
Right.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
That doesn't mean he's a bad fella. Many of you, your mothers don't believe in Elijah Muhammad. That don't mean your mama is not a good woman. She's just a disbeliever. But in time, maybe she'll believe, or dad will believe when they know better. Spike Lee the same. So the perspective of the movie is Spike Lee's perspective. He has listened to many witnesses, and he has formed his opinion. He's made his movie. I don't know how true it is, but from some of the parts of the script that I have read, it trashes the messenger. I don't know how true it is, because it could have been a false script. It could have been something put in my hands to create mischief. So the only way I'll know is to see the movie. And Spike, from what I understand, said that he would allow me a private showing of the movie. Well, I appreciate that. I really want to see it. But I'm not so worried about Spike Lee. And I'm not worried about the movie. But what gives me cause for concern is the motivation of the enemy. And I just want to spend the next 5 minutes giving you my view of this and what steps we should take. First, many of you prior to 2 or 3 years ago knew of Malcolm X. Before all the X paraphernalia came out, how many of you knew of Malcolm? Would you raise your hands? Okay. Those of you who knew of Malcolm and had a love for him would like to see Malcolm's life preserved and his memory honored for the work that he did. Is that correct? Most of you that are not followers of Elijah Muhammad, but just love Malcolm, want to see his legacy preserved. Fine. But there's an insidious devil that knows, listen to this, there's nobody living right now that he knows of that he can cast against a living teacher, Louis Farrakhan. He wanted to use Jesse against me. That didn't work. And I guess some of the others that he wished to use, they're not strong enough with the people. So he has to try to break our ranks and get out opposition from within the house. I want you to listen carefully now. And then, even opposition that may rise from inside the house may not be effective. Not if those in the house really understand the guidance and the guide. So the enemy decided to raise Malcolm and make Malcolm the revolutionary saint of the black struggle, knowing that our young people would love Malcolm because these are strong young men. They don't want no weak nothing in front of them. They're strong, they're fearless, and he's put guns in their hands. So we're killing each other in the name of turf, gang war, and drugs. Now, white folks don't mind you having a gang. That ain't the problem. What white folk want is for blacks to organize to terrorize their own community. They want you to organize and drive by and shoot your own community. If you drove by and shot up their community, they come in with the army to put a stop to that overnight. Right. But since you driving by killing one another, they don't give a damn about that. Because the more niggas, if you pardon that expression, I'm speaking from their perspective. The more niggas you kill, the better they feel it is for them, because we're getting rid of their source of trouble. So they'll encourage that. That's why in Chicago right now, if the gangs say they want a truce, instead of the police saying, oh, really? We hope that it will work, though we doubt it. They come right out. We doubt it. It's not going to work. It's not sincere. Right. They throw cold water on it. Instead of saying it's a good thing, we encourage it, we hope it'll work, but let's be vigilant and see if it will. That's the approach the police should take. But actually, some of the police really want to keep this thing going. Yes, sir. Right. Now, how many of you are familiar with the Shiite Sunni Muslim split? Okay, it's very few. The Orthodox factions of Islam has split into two main groups, the Sunni and the Shiite. And the Shiites believe that Ali was the successor to the Prophet. And because they believed that, and Ali was somehow pushed out of it until the fourth caliphate, when he became the actual head of the Nation of Islam. But then he was killed, and his sons were killed. So the blood of Ali and Hussein and Hassan has come down to us today in the killing of Shiite and Sunni. Now, why do I say that? Because among our young people there's a degree of loyalty today and fearlessness that if you and I belong to the Vice Lords or one of the other male organizations, and somebody from another group kills a member in our group, what do we do? What? We retaliate, right? And what do? We kill a member of the group that killed us. Isn't that the way it works? And it keeps on escalating, doesn't it? All right. If that spirit is in our young men, suppose they lift Malcolm now through the movie and then attempt to declare the Nation of Islam as the killer of Malcolm X. Then the same spirit of retaliation that is with one gang over another could be in the heart of our misguided people against the Nation of Islam. Although most of you in the nation didn't know anything about the nation years ago, you just coming in. So you know very little of Malcolm. You know, probably some of you have never seen the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. But it's to those who are bent on vengeance, it doesn't make any difference. You the people that killed Malcolm. We already lost a brother in Memphis over those same words, not handled correctly, and the brother was shot. Now, Muslims are very serious people. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad took the gun out of our hands. We don't carry weapons, brothers, because we will not or do not wish to harm any of our people. We just won't carry no weapons. We're people of peace. I hope nobody ever forces us, like in the days of the prophet, to pick up the sword. That'd be a terrible day. That'd be a bad day. Now, 350 FBI agents that were working on communism in espionage. When communists, the work of communism broke up, those 350 agents were reassigned. And guess where the government said they were going to reassign them? To the black community to work among the gangs. In Los Angeles, one of the brothers was selling papers, and the police drove up to him and said, wait till the Malcolm X movie come out, you'll get yours. So it's not the movie that I'm concerned about. It's what the enemy intends to do behind the movie to destroy the Nation of Islam and its leadership. Now, Muslims, we have to be very strong, very committed, and very obedient in this hour. You must fight your tendency to rebel against instructions. We will be giving you all instructions as to how best to proceed proceed in that time so that perhaps we can get through it to the brighter day that lies just beyond it. A hint of what I intend to do is found in the history of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. When Malcolm made the statement of the chickens coming home to roost, who had just gotten killed? John Kennedy. Did the people love Kennedy?
Yes, sir.
Did the people love Malcolm? Not too many. So if Malcolm, through the press, was made to appear as though he mocked the death of Kennedy, was it wise for Malcolm to be in the public while the public was mourning the death of Kennedy? What do you think some crazed white folk or black folk who loved Kennedy would have tried to do to Malcolm if Malcolm were in the public? What would they have done? Do you think they would have tried to kill Malcolm?
Yes, sir.
If they thought Malcolm was making mockery of Kennedy's assassination and death?
Yes, sir.
If you lost somebody in your family, brothers, that you loved, and somebody silly came to you and started laughing about the loss of a member in your family that you loved, wouldn't that anger you enough to hurt that person? Well, that's the point. So the Honorable Elijah Muhammad took Malcolm out of the public and silenced him for 90 days. And when I spoke to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, he said, well, I'm going to keep him out of the public until the eye of the public cools from the death and assassination of the president. Therein lies guidance from the guide.
Yes, sir.
My last public engagement is scheduled for November the 21st, 3 days into the movie. I probably won't speak again outside of the mosque until Savior's Day, February 1993, if it is the will of Allah. I don't want to see the brothers during that time period on the corners selling any newspapers. I want all the brothers to go door to door. Because when you're on a corner, you're set up for a drive-by shooting, and it don't have to be one of our beautiful people. It could be a government agent that's come by and shoot a brother down. But if there's no target for them to see, there ain't no target for them to shoot. Now I realize that some of the brothers, you do well on that corner. But from the 18th of November, you'll do well if you obey my instruction. There will be no sisters permitted to the mosque meetings at night during that time period. This will probably be one of your last night meetings. Because if we have to fight at night, it'd be better that our women and children not be around. Man fight better when he know he ain't got to worry about his wife. You understand? So until I tell you you can come out at night again, I don't want to see the sisters except the officials who have a post for any of our lost found sisters who wish to come and hear the teachings. But the sisters generally will be excused. You'll get a letter to this effect. On Sundays, all meetings are to be conducted within an hour and a half to 2 hour period. Nothing over that, because the sun sets and I don't want you out in the street at dark, and I don't want the brothers hanging out in the street after 10 o'clock at night.
Yes, sir.
The people that work nights, that work the streets at night, I should say, are the worst of the people. Take your homes for your places of refuge and your places of entertainment. Be in your homes. And if you want somebody to come to your home, you want to have dinner, you have people to your home. Until I can test that atmosphere and see what it is, we're going to preserve and protect the nation. My next edition of the paper, I'm going to warn the government that if they try this, Allah, whose anger is already kindled against them, will retaliate by taking whole cities out. Listen, listen, listen. You may not know who I am, but it's time that the whole damn world find out. And if I am who I think I am, which I don't talk about. I never talk about who I think I am. So many of you make little mistakes in handling me. I'm your brother. I always want to be your brother. And I've always tried to be just a plain brother. But I'm a lot more than that. Do you know that I have more rights over you than you have over yourself? But I walk right among you and never try to make no show of nothing big about myself. But I know who my father is, you see. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad is no lightweight man. He had a lot of juice, a lot of power with God.
Right.
Is that right?
Yes, sir.
And he told me that I had not one backing me up, but two.
Yes, sir.
And he told me how he knew or began to learn how his will was tied up in the will of God. And he tried it several times and found out that whatever he wanted in a certain way, God brought it. And I'm telling you straight up, I have tried it. And I found God's will with me.
Yes, sir.
It's true.
Yes, sir.
I love you. And if anybody harms you, as you and I are in the pursuit of our duty to civilize our people, I will call on Allah to show forth his power and make this beast to know that he is God and he's with us, and I will call the shot before it happened.
Yes, sir.
To let you know
Yes, sir.
that when it happens, there's a God with Farrakhan.
Yes, sir.
And I'm not talking about your God.
Yes, sir.
I'm talking, when I say your God, I'm not talking about Muslim. I'm talking about the disbeliever. I'm not talking about no spook,
Yes, sir.
no spirit.
Yes, sir.
I'm talking about a real live God that already is angry with this devil and is beating him down with the forces of nature, as the Honorable Elijah Muhammad told us he would do. So I'm asking you, my beloved brothers and sisters, please stop rebelling. Practice obedience. Start with little things. Let me talk about just a few little things you can start with. Sisters, just start with something little like a headpiece. All right, Sister Shabazz. Because if you can't surrender to little things, you'll stumble over big things. Just a simple little thing like covering. Don't be afraid to show yourself as a Muslim.
Right.
Put on your garment.
Yes, sir.
Be proud. Because that's your protection. Sisters will tell you when they get on the bus, if you look like Lucinda Smith, the brother on the bus will treat you like Lucinda Smith.
Right.
But if you look like Lucille 3X, you might find them getting up and giving you a seat. You might find them stop swearing because they're growing to respect the nation and to respect a woman who is trying to make something out of herself in the way of righteousness. Little things, try to obey. The thing that I don't want to do that. I know it's right, but I don't. That's the thing. You start fighting to try and bring yourself in line. I know it's a struggle. Brothers.
Yes, sir.
I ain't gonna stay over here messing with the sisters. I don't talk to the brothers. Now, you know, brothers, if the minister tell you, don't sell on the street corners, in your mind you say, man, this is a hot corner. I know this corner. The minister don't know this corner. See, I don't never see him in this neighborhood. I know this corner. Everybody, Stop rebelling, Brother Shabazz, and be Brother Muhammad.
Yes, sir.
Be the children of Master Farad Muhammad and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and let's let Brother Shabazz die a natural death.
Yes, sir.
You know, brothers, some of us very rebellious, man. Little things that the captain asks you to do. Try and bring yourself in line to submission, brothers. Let's make it easy on ourselves and easy on those whose effort it is to try and lead us. And let me tell you, the more you bring yourself to fight against rebellion, the straighter the path gets, the narrower it gets, but we'll get through. My last statement, Moses led the children of Israel through the Red Sea. He ain't talking about sea. Sea means people. Red Sea means angry people. People who are at war, in revolution and strife. But Moses, with the rod, cut a path in the Red Sea that the children of Israel could walk straight through. Pharaoh's army came in there and got swallowed up in the sea, in the bloodshed and revolution and strife and war that's come on the planet. If you strive to obey me, you will find that I'm not asking you to do anything unreasonable. But should I ask that, and you don't quite understand, remember the words of the apostle and burn it into your brains. Wherever you see him, look at him.
Yes, sir.
Why he wants you to look at me? I ask myself that question. Why? Why, dear apostle, do you want the people to look at me? Because he's doing something with me.
That's right.
Right in front of your eyes.
That's right. Yes, sir. Bear with me.
What is he doing with you, Farrakhan? He's making you an example. You know, there's a scripture that says you can't put new wine in an old wineskin, lest the wineskin break and the wine spill out. You can't put the new wisdom in the old body and form. You got to make a new wineskin. He's making your brother new right in front of your face.
Right.
As a sign to you that he promised us, if we submit, he will turn our age back and reverse the process of death so that instead of getting older, we'll get younger. Look at him. And whenever he speaks, listen. Why, dear apostle? Because his preaching is going to be a bearing of witness of me, he said.
That's right.
Wherever he tells you to go, go. Wherever he tells you to stay away from, stay away from. So, you know, when I say things to you, really, if it's like guidance like that, instruction like that, pay good attention to it. Because when you go contrary to it, you're going to suffer some kind of consequence. Train yourself to obey. That's the only way, by the grace of God, I'll be able to get everyone through. And I want to get us through safely. The devil is planning against us. I'm hoping that we can get right on path the plans of the devil. And guess what? The movie Malcolm X will present the Nation of Islam again to the world. And once we get past the trap